Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. Hey, I've got a little bit of a different episode for you guys. Normally, I don't interview myself, but I attended the Community of Christ World Conference a few weeks ago, and I did a little daily vlog, I guess, with just kind of my thoughts each day of the conference. And so I thought I would share that with you, a bunch of little 4 or 5 minute snippets. I know it's in vertical form because I was trying the YouTube shorts. So it's a little different format for me. And anyway, it kind of gives my thoughts in real time when I attended the week-long World Conference for the Community of Christ. So you won't want to miss this episode. Check it out.
Hey everybody, I thought I would just give you a quick short video. I'm here today. It's the first day of the Community of Christ conference. It's actually the day before, so I got here one day early. As you can see in the background here, I'm going to show you this is the Auditorium, which is just kitty corner from the Community of Christ Temple. I just picked up my registration. I'll tell you, I thought I would just give you a few thoughts and impressions. I might try to post one of these a day. And so the first thing is, I noticed, well, first of all, World Conference is not free. That's the first difference. It costs $200 to register. Anyway, so I also got the program, and I was shocked at how large it is. See how thick it is. There it is, the Community of Christ program. And so I thought I would just kind of give my impressions every day. So I landed this morning about 10 a.m. here in Kansas City, and it's about a 45-minute drive to Independence, I think, if I remember right. Anyway, so I'm going to the Whitmer meeting tonight, and maybe I'll try to post one of these every day while I'm here. So welcome to Community of Christ World Conference. Hey everybody, here I am. I'm at the Community of Christ Temple. Just finished day one of World Conference 2023. Thought I would give you a few impressions. So the day started out, I can't switch my camera view here. The day started out with the discussion and information sessions. No, I didn't go to that. The opening legislative meeting, which was different, very different from LDS General Conference in a few ways. Number one, they passed some resolutions, and it was people dissented. It's kind of a little bit more parliamentary. I remember actually I was a little bit late, and so when we got there, they were talking about what to do if there was a fire. They said when the fire alarm goes off, this is what it will sound like, and they actually had it go off. And then they were talking about exits and things like that, and I was like, boy, they never talk about that in our general conference. They even talked about what to do with an active shooter, which I thought was really interesting. You'd never hear that in LDS General Conference. They passed a few resolutions. I remember one of them had to do with changing how the Board of Trustees was for Graceland University. A few people dissented, but that passed by a wide margin. Anyway, so that was the first, that was from 10 to noon, and then we went to lunch, went with Deb Luce. She is going to be a guest. I'm going to interview her tomorrow, actually. I'm excited about that. She's an evangelist in the Community of Christ, what LDS would call, well, we would call her a patriarch or a matriarch. I actually asked Deb weeks ago if I could call her a matriarch, and she said, no, that makes me sound too old. So anyway, I had an interesting lunch with Deb, and looking forward to that interview. We're going to get together tomorrow and talk about that. Then, let's see, 2 o'clock was the legislative meeting again, except for it was really, this time it was more of an awards ceremony. I don't know if I can splice in a video, but it was almost this African man led it, and it was like singing and clapping, and we don't do any clapping. But there was a lot of clapping and standing ovations and that sort of thing. But the second session, it says in the schedule, I'm looking at my schedule so I can remember, it went from 2 to 4:30, but I went from 2 to about 3:15, and then they're like, we're going to take a half-hour break, go walk around. So I remember walking around, my hips hurting me, so that was good for me to walk around. But anyway, it was more of an awards, like people retiring and people who've done good service and different awards, kind of stuff like that. So then, after the half-hour break, there was more legislation. I can't remember what that was. It passed. It was not, I don't know, it wasn't like really, I think the exciting stuff's next week. So anyway, that was interesting. Then I went to a dinner, what they call a seekers meeting. They asked if I was a seeker, which in LDS parlance, we would say, are you an investigator? Are you investigating the church? And I was like, no, but if there's free food, I'll be happy to come. You know me. So anyway, Apostle Locke Mackay was there, and Robin Linkart was there. I also got to see Gina Colvin, talked to her a little bit, so that was cool. Gina used to host the Thoughtful Faith podcast. She's a New Zealander, so I actually recognized her by her accent, and I was like, are you Gina? so that was funny. And then we came back here to the temple. The first two were in the auditorium, and I was curious about seating capacity. Auditorium holds 6,000, and the temple here, I'll try to show you around here. My backlighting's probably not going to be too good. I'm actually on the balcony here, and it holds only 1,600. I was surprised. This is a lot smaller than the auditorium. So the auditorium holds 6,000. A lot of times they hold graduations there and things like that. So they gave an International Peace Award to some lady that I don't remember her name. So anyway, and then they ended with, so there was a few songs, a lot more clapping, a lot more standing, a lot more casual, as you can see. People don't dress up in ties for this. Some people do, like the President VZ and people in the First Presidency and stuff like that. But I don't think Locke had a tie on. I don't remember. Oh, we turned out the lights. I guess I better go. So anyway, so that was my first day of Sea of Christ, WC23. That's the tag, or whatever. So anyway, they're turning out the lights, so I guess I better get out of here. But anyway, those are my first day impressions, so it was interesting. All right, as you can see, it's getting late. We conclude day 2 of the Community of Christ World Conference. As you can see behind me, you've got a beautiful, I timed this really good, beautiful picture of the temple. One of the things that you don't recognize with the temple, I'm going to kind of turn over here. You can see there's a really long building behind me. This is the seminary at the Community of Christ. Some people behind me, so I'm trying to get out of the way because I see one of them has a walker. But anyway, they actually train their pastors here in Independence at this seminary, as you can see behind me there. And it's basically attached to the temple. You see that beautiful spire there that, now I can go back, that everybody's familiar with the beautiful spire, except for my trees are in the way. And but people don't really realize that there is this wing behind me. You can see it's actually a really big building there behind me, as you can see. So so this is where the Graceland Seminary, well, it's actually not affiliated with Graceland, but anyway, so kind of summary of today. For me, it was kind of a light day because obviously I'm not a priesthood holder in their church. Started out with a wonderful communion service in the auditorium. I'm going to see if I can walk over the auditorium so you can see where it is in relation to the temple. And they have open communion. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting, of course, the auditorium holds about 6,000 people. I guess they blocked off every other row for COVID reasons. I was kind of surprised they're still worrying about COVID like they are. But there's a lot of international people here. I posted a video earlier of an African choir. I just found out they were from the Congo. One of the songs they sang in was Swahili. They were really beautiful. So definitely not the Tabernacle Choir, but it was a lot of fun. And so that was this evening. They had an evening service in the temple. One of the interesting things, it is a lot more like a regular conference where you have different things going on in different rooms. That was in the main sanctuary. And then, anyway, back in the auditorium, which I'm almost there. I know it's getting dark. But you can see they've got a beautiful lit dome. Can you see it behind me there? You can kind of see the dome. I'll keep walking a little bit closer. Well, I'll also show you, for those of you who are LDS and want to see the visitor center. It's literally across the street from the temple. Don't fall down these stairs. Okay, so behind me, you can't really see it very well, but that's the LDS Visitor Center. And then you can see the auditorium behind me, and that's where the worship service was this morning. They actually passed communion or the sacrament in that. I wonder if I can walk backwards without, nah, I don't want to do that, I'll hurt myself. But President Vesey was up on the rostrum and prepared this, and well, he prepared the sacrament. He didn't bless it, but they blessed the sacrament in Creole. Obviously, I don't understand Creole, but very international flavor here. You can see the Polynesian, Tahitian, Hawaiian delegations with their beautiful. Oh, you know what? That thing behind me, that's not the visitor center. That is the stake center. The visitor center is right there. That's the LDS Visitor Center, so I got that messed up. Oh, and I should also show you how big that big long building is behind me. You can see that actually has a lot more room in it, a lot more classrooms, conference rooms, that sort of thing. But that's where they do all of their pastoral training and that sort of thing. So anyway, beautiful communion service this morning. I have to say, they sang "The Spirit of God Like a Fire is Burning," and it was just beautiful. I just got very emotional. So it was touching. So a lot of songs that I don't know, but that one I knew. Definitely could sing in that one. It's funny how some of the songs are very familiar, others are not. So anyway, it actually blocked off traffic here. I did get an anti-Community of Christ, I shouldn't say it that way, but that's what it felt like, pamphlet, which I haven't read yet, but I was curious to see. But apparently they have picketers just like we do in Salt Lake too, or I should say a picketer, and he wasn't yelling. He was just like, here, read this, it's about the Bible, which I found very, we're used to that in Salt Lake. But anyway, so once again, that's the auditorium. Quick reminder, that's where Harry Truman, when he came home from being the president, gave his homecoming address, I guess, for the city of Independence. So beautiful dome building, and that's where this morning's worship service was. And then you can also see behind me, once again, the beautiful Community of Christ Temple. So I was like, how tall is that? The top of that spire is 300 feet. And the Salt Lake Temple, just for comparison, is 223 feet tall. So anyway, there's your thoughts, and tune in tomorrow for the next segment. We're going to do a legislative session. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I was going to tell you, the reason why today was light, middle of the day, was for priesthood quorums to meet. And like I said, I'm not a priesthood quorum member, so didn't have much to do there. So, but anyway, super fun. Talk to you guys later. All right, I thought I'd give everybody an update on today here at day 3 of the conference. So you can see the auditorium behind me in the daylight. There's the temple at the church, and of course, now you can see the temple. So the fire alarm just went off at the Community of Christ Temple. I didn't smell any smoke. I think it's probably a false alarm. But anyway, so this morning the legislation. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it was way too long. Basically, they passed a resolution that allows them to hold some meetings over Zoom. There was a big debate about whether it should be all members or just delegates or members. Anyway, it took way too long to resolve that issue, but it finally passed, and they resolved it with members/delegates. At lunch, I went to lunch with Richard Brown. He's a blogger, a Community of Christ blogger at Wheaton Terrace. That was a lot of fun. It's the first time I've known Richard for years online, but it was the first time we met in person, so that was really cool. And then this afternoon, they were talking about a resolution about baptism. So it's interesting, years ago, it's interesting how they keep revisiting some of these issues, because years ago, they passed a thing that said if you want to join the Community of Christ, they will accept a baptism from any church, doesn't matter, as long as you were at least 8 years old when you were baptized. Well, apparently there are some people from the Methodist Church or Lutherans or whatever Catholics, I guess, that they want the church to accept their infant baptism. So that's what they're debating right now. The debating went right until 3 o'clock, at which point they said they were going to take a 25-minute break. But that 25-minute break is obviously going to be a lot longer now, because 10 minutes into the break, fire alarm off. So I thought I'd give you a quick video. So they haven't voted on that yet. Don't know how that one's going to be. There were some people that were like, somebody said, well, we have, I teach 8-year-olds or 7-year-olds or whatever. I don't think she actually gave a name, but so I teach young kids, and we tell them they can't get baptized till 8, so I don't think it's fair that we allow infant baptism so some 5-year-old can take communion when my 7-year-old can't, or whatever. So, interesting perspectives all the way around. So hopefully it's not too windy, and hopefully I'm not covering up the microphone, and hopefully you heard that. Maybe I'll listen to this and make sure it was good. So anyway, that's day 3, morning session. And, Carla Long, I should add also really quickly, she's from Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, somewhere around there, Utah County. She was sustained this morning as the counselor in the presiding bishopric, and there were some apostles that were also sustained. It was funny because they made them leave the room, and I would say 97% of the people voted to sustain all the people in their new positions. But there were a few people that raised their hands in opposition. I have no idea why. So anyway, interesting. So I'll let you know later tonight if there was really a fire. I really don't think there is, but we're having a quick break, so enjoy. All right, I thought I would give you a quick update of what happened with that last session. Right after I hung up the video or whatever, stopped the video, they were letting people back in the building. So yeah, it was a false alarm. The 25-minute meeting or break was a 35-minute break, so it wasn't too bad. Except for they continued to argue about wording of the resolutions. Which, anyway, the resolution basically says, I'm just being basic here, we want to ask the First Presidency to consider what to do with people who were baptized as infants, basically. That's what it comes down to. And anyway, they're still arguing about, put this phrase in, take this phrase out. Anyway, it's very waste of time almost. I mean, it's good. The thing is, they get to debate this. But anyway, so it's about to be tomorrow, I guess. And anyway. I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow, but where I am right now, I'm in the chapel in the Community of Christ temple. So you can see behind me, we've got these beautiful paintings of there's a wedding and a baby blessing. What do we have here? Healing of the sick, blessing. I'm going to have to move towards the middle so you can see here. What is that? Oh, that's a woman and a man blessing somebody. Baptism, blessing, probably confirmation. What is that there? I can't see that. Oh, that's the sacrament. That's what it is. That's a little tray of grape juice. A wedding. And back there. And then also behind, this is called the meditation chapel. Behind me here, you can see this beautiful little garden here. So that's very beautiful. So this is just a small little meditation chapel inside the temple. Nobody was in here, so I thought, I'll give you my update for today. So, a couple other things that I found out. Went to lunch with Richard Brown. I think I mentioned that earlier. And he told me that there were about 1,400 delegates here. So that's one of the other interesting things. Not everybody comes to General Conference. And I even said, are the people who come, like, they're the activists. They're the people who want to make change. We want to ask the first presidency to change baptism or gay marriage or women in the priesthood or whatever, that sort of a thing. And so he basically agreed with me that, yeah, that's kind of who the people are that come. So there's 1,400 delegates, about 500 observers like me with non-voting rights, and so that's actually bigger than they were expecting. They have some remote sites. My hip is hurting a lot, and so I was in the basement watching the things because the auditorium seats are terrible. Especially when you have a sore hip. And so I was able to go to the basement where I could stand and walk around and even lie down a little bit. So anyway, there's your update. So welcome to Community of Christ World Conference 2023. Okay, everybody, I didn't get a video out yesterday, but I'm making up for it this morning, and you'll find out why I didn't get it out yesterday here in just a minute. So in the morning, they continued to debate amendments. That baptism thing, and I was just like, holy cow, this thing is never going to end. And then they adjourned for lunch. Well, I was planning on going after lunch to the Remnant Church. They only are open on Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 4, and I thought maybe I could get a contact with the prophet Terry Patience, and maybe come back for an interview sometime. Well, so went over to the temple lot. It was a little bit early, and you would not believe who answered the door, but it was Terry Patience. And so I was like, oh, I said, do you know Terry Patience? I am Terry Patience. Wow. And so I was like, oh, I'd love to interview you. Can we do it today? Because I had my equipment in my car, and he's like, yeah, we can do it right now if you want. And I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, I got an interview with Terry Patience. So that was fantastic. So I'll be posting that soon. The funny thing was, so I got to tour the building and everything. That was really fun. So fun interview with Terry. So the funny thing, the reason why I had my stuff in my car was because I was planning to come to Fort Madison, Iowa today to go see the Heartland Museum, the Phoenicia Museum. And so it's about a 4.5 hour drive from Independence to Fort Madison, Iowa, and I guess the Phoenicia is close in Montrose or something. I'm not sure exactly where. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing today. And I did talk to Deb Luce after my interview with Terry and asked if they finally passed that baptism resolution, and they finally passed it. So, holy cow. And they also passed a climate change resolution. So anyway, so they got 2 things done yesterday. So apparently the climate change wasn't quite so problematic with the wording. So anyway, so it's continuing on. I'm actually going to be in Iowa today and tomorrow. I think I'm planning to come back Friday. John Hamer told me that he thought that
excuse me, he thought that President Vesey would say something on Friday about succession and that sort of thing. So I want to make it back for that. And so anyway, there's your update for day 4, I think it is. Thanks. Okay, guys, here I am. As you can see, I've got flags behind me. These are the flags of the crew of the Phoenicia Museum. I'm trying not to trip over something. And so let's see if I can name some of them. I know the second one is Lebanon. I think that's Greece, the blue one. Then Israel, of course. The United States, England, which of course represents Philip Beale, Brazil. And then I'm sorry, you people who are from that other country. Looks like France and Italy, I think, are the last two, if I remember right. I'm sorry, I don't know those other ones. So these are represent the crew. And as you can see behind me, we have what they have of the Phoenicia ship that's being reconstructed. Now, one of the interesting things here, I'm trying not to trip over these boards behind me. This is what they've got built. So this is the back half of the ship. And as you can see here, I'm going to kind of focus in here. Apparently they cut the ship down the middle, and so you can see there's some steel plates. They've had to put those on there to add a little bit of strength for the reconstruction. Those weren't original to the ship. You can see there, that's there. And then, so this is the back half of the ship. The front half is still in England. Apparently they opened this in June, although nobody's really working on it right now. You can also see some of the pieces of the ship. I think it says P20, and I think that stands for Port 20. This is S20 here, so this is starboard. So basically, here, I'll show you over here. They've got, so as you look here, you can see the ship here. This that had some copper paint on it, which was apparently to keep the barnacles off. And I know that it originally had some tar that was used for waterproofing. It's hard to see there, but so anyway, they're trying to take both the green paint off, the copper paint, and the tar off of it. So anyway, you can kind of see the whole ship behind me there, or what's the second half. I'm told that this is about 2/3 of the ship, and there's another 1/3. It's going to go higher. They say it's bigger than the garage door. But Mike LaFontaine says that's not a problem. They've also got the gift shop over there, but you can see along the wall, they've got extra pieces here behind me. So these are pieces of the ship that are all over. There's some more on that back wall there. So anyway, so this is the Phoenicia warehouse. They're going to be building a new museum, and I don't know when that's going to be. So here are my friends Jay and Jerry Mackley. Say hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So Jay has his own Heartland model, and we're going to be talking about this afternoon. We've also got the gift shop here, and so you can see all the Heartland stuff in there. What else is there? Oh, I should show you the replica of the ship. Here, let me do that really quickly. I was lucky to get one of these. They're $65, but these are little replicas of the ship. And of course, this is the original horse head that was on the front of the ship. Can't see that very well. Now you can kind of see that. So anyway, one of the ears came off apparently during the sailing. So it's only got one ear left, but that's the original horse head that was on the front of the ship. They're going to get another one. And anyway, there's your tour. If you want to help, I think you said it was June 1st
Is that when they're opening this back up and they're going to work on the ship?
Yeah. June.
Yeah, June 1st. So come out June 1st and you can help get the green paint off and the tar and whatever else they need you to help. They need a lot of volunteers to get this going. So anyway, there's your tour of the Phoenicia warehouse ship museum thing. So thanks. All right, here's your day 6 update from the Community of Christ World Conference. Apparently there was a resolution that the people wanted to apologize for past racism within the Community of Christ. Took a day and a half to get through all the amendments and everything. It was very, very time-consuming, frustrating, I think, for all involved. But the weird thing is, and so they voted on it, they passed the resolution, everybody went to lunch, they came back from lunch, and I guess President Veazey got up there and said that they had spoken with their lawyers, and they couldn't do the resolution for legal reasons, and they weren't going to debate it anymore, and they were done and they were moving on. So that was a big surprise. I did talk to someone, and he said they wanted, because I said, why couldn't the lawyers just tell them right off the bat that we can't do this? Apparently, they wanted the people to have their say. They said what they wanted to say, and then, so the idea was we want to let the people say what they want to say, but the lawyers, I don't know. I know a lot of people were like, we just wasted a day and a half on this. We could have moved on to something else. And I totally get that. But so anyway, that's just more of Community of Christ stuff. In the afternoon session, I was able to attend part of that. They're going over a marriage resolution. It's got a couple of different facets to it. I think the main facet, too, is for, because I guess section either 150 or 151, I can't remember. It seems like it was 151. This has a thing about monogamy as God's standard. Of course, in India and Africa, polygamy is completely legal, and so there's a question about whether they should remove that or not, and so you can imagine, I mean, so far they've only debated that for one session, half a day basically. And I think tomorrow's going to be a little bit longer day. I do know someone that claims to be in a polyamorous relationship, and this person feels that this person is being discriminated against, and so I never thought about that. I don't think that's been a big issue. It was kind of an issue on Facebook, but not really an issue in the conference, at least not that I'm aware of. So anyway, that's kind of interesting. So anyway, that's your day 6 update. Day 7, everything ends tomorrow. On Friday, they're going to get an earlier start on the sessions. I'm going to sleep in. But anyway, so there you have it. All right, here I am. I'm in the Stone Church in Independence, Missouri. This was the, I think, first church built in Missouri. I'm trying to show you some of the stained glass in here. You got this nice balcony here with this kind of reminds me a little bit of the Salt Lake Tabernacle with the wooden pillars and everything. The lights are out, but that kind of helps you to see the things. They've got a nice big organ, pipe organ, as you can see behind me there. I might try to walk up to the balcony to show you the rest. Anyway, I thought I would show you really quickly. There's some more stained glass and beautiful. I thought I could show you quickly. So today was the last day of World Conference for the Community of Christ, and they zoomed through a lot of stuff. They finished off that marriage amendment. It passed. To my shock, I think a lot of people were surprised. The Universal Scripture Access did not pass. They voted, I think the vote was 783 to 727 or something. Really surprised that that did not pass. And they moved on to section 116, which is a revelation by Joseph Smith III. I think it was 1865, if I remember right. They kind of ran out of time on that one. So the final motion, the resolution was for the first presidency to consider putting that in the historical appendix. And the funny thing is, I was talking to Mark Shearer yesterday. They had originally done that with baptism for the dead. They put it in the historical appendix, and then they got rid of the appendix. So I think there's a lot of people that want to do that. I'm trying to give you a view of the chapel from up here. It's funny when you see this, it's kind of hard to tell. On here, we've got a baptism there. We've got the Lamb and the Lion here. And then we've got laying on of hands. I think those above kind of represent the Trinity, if I remember right. Anyway, so you can kind of see the balcony here. And so it's a very old building. Anyway, so there was 3 or 4 resolutions that didn't even make it to the floor, basically. And they just decided, I think there was a motion to refer to the first presidency, so people didn't really vote on it, but basically everything that didn't get a chance just goes on the first presidency, and they can decide what they want to do with it anyway. So it seems like I'm missing something. I don't remember what it is. But anyway, they ended with a worship service, lots of singing. It's really interesting because a lot of times they'll have people sing in other languages, French, African languages, whatever they may be. And so it gives you definitely a much more international flavor than we LDS get in our general conferences. So anyway, I'm trying to decide what else there is. Paul DeBarth, he's a good friend of mine. His wife passed away a few months ago, and they're having a little get together here at the Stone Church, and so that's what I'm heading to. And then I'm going to the airport. So this is my last report from World Conference, day 7, and definitely, I guess when you got a time limit, people don't argue as much about wording. And then anyway, I think they could have done a lot less of that personally. But it's interesting. They definitely get to say to have their say, and and the prophet listens. It's a lot more feedback, a lot more transparent than in the LDS Church. And so it's very, very interesting. I'll show you these are just kind of your regular stained glass windows. Can't really see the colors very well. But anyway, signing off from the Stone Church in Independence, Missouri, the land of Zion, as they say here. So aloha, and see you all later. Thanks again.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with myself. It was a lot of fun going to Independence and met a lot of fun people. And in fact, one of these people I met was a woman. She's called an evangelist in the community of Christ. Her name is Deb Luce. And we would think of her kind of as a female patriarch. So she had a very interesting story that we'll share in our next episode about a miraculous healing.
Normally the elders will place their hands on your head and they anoint your head with oil. And I remember him leaning down. I was in the emergency room on the table, and because of my injuries, he couldn't get to my head. He couldn't place his hands on my head. I was laying flat on this gurney thing, and he leaned down and he says, "I don't know if this will work. I've never had to do this way." And he placed 2 fingers with oil on my cheek right here.
Oh, interesting.
And as soon as he did, there was the spirit just, it moved. I get goosebumps now because it just was a warm sensation, and it started in my head, and I felt it all the way out to my toes. It wasn't a zapping thing. It was just a very gentle, warm, comforting thing. And within 5 minutes, when they were doing the pricks on my toes, to get sensation, I was able to feel it. And
so you hadn't felt your toes before?
Couldn't move my legs, couldn't move, things. And the internal injuries, they never found why I was bleeding internally, but the bag that, that had been, determining whatever, was clearing up. And so they took me into surgery, and I was in surgery like 7 or 8 hours.
Oh my goodness.
For my face. And the guy that did it was a plastic surgeon.
Oh, good.
And it was a real blessing, because when the next day when I was out of surgery, he had come and said I'd probably have to have a couple more reconstructive surgeries to repair the damage,
Wow.
And I never had anything else done after that.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, just so excited that God had blessed me through that sacrament, I was healed.
Thanks for listening to Gospel Tangents. If you'd like to support me, please subscribe at gospeltangents.com or on patreon.com/gospeltangents, or you can watch entire videos at youtube.com/gospeltangents. I really can't do this without your support. I'd love to do it full time, and I need a lot more people that are willing to help me out. So I'd really appreciate that. So thanks again for listening, and don't forget to check out some of our other videos.